Hello and welcome to a very special edition here on the Field of 68 because we are joined today by Alex Caravan, who made the announcement today that he is coming back to school to try to go Alex Cara to back back national champions. I got to tell you, Alex, today, well, I've had some good days in the last 2 years as a UConn fan, thanks in part to you. But the day I get to show up on a stream with you wearing a shirt that says, shut the fuck up and win UConn Huskies with Jeff Goodman, while he has to sit here and let me celebrate back-to-back wins and Alex Caravan coming back to school is one of the best moments that I've had. So first and foremost, congratulations. Second of all, welcome back. And third of all, talk me through this decision and this decision process to come back to school.
No, yo, first, thank you guys for having me, and I'm super excited to go back. I think just what we have at UConn so far, and just what the coaching staff's built, and everything in general with the pieces that we have, I really do think I'll continue to be a perfect fit for the team. And I mean, it's a special group that we have this year, and the coaches especially. It's amazing, and just continue to prove what I could do, and turn it up to another level. And I think that's something I could do next year.
So take me through the decision and what it was like and how hard it was. Because, I talked to a bunch of NBA teams and, they felt like you were somewhere in that second round, maybe the early part of the second round, maybe get a guarantee, maybe a two-way. What were you hearing from teams and how agonizing was the decision? And how much did it come down to the final day here?
No, it came down to this morning. It really did. And it was tough. It was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of talk with my coaches, a lot of talk with my agency, and it was super tough because I was getting great feedback with a lot of teams. They really loved me. They really loved me in the second round, and they really, a lot of teams wanted me to stay, but at the same time, I felt like I had more to prove. I could show myself as a first round pick for next year's draft, possibly, and at the same time, just add to UConn's history. And I didn't want to leave the what ifs out of question. Like, what if I didn't go back to school? Or, like, what if I did go back to school? Like, what could have happened? And, I really want to maximize all my opportunities. I know we've got such few years left in college basketball that I love it at UConn so much that I want to make the most of it.
It's wild to think about what I'm about to say, and I don't know if this entered your thought process at all, but you coming back to school is going to put UConn in a position where they have a chance to win 3 straight national titles, which hasn't been done since basically the UCLA John Wooden days, right? And it has a chance for you to be probably, I don't even know if it's probably, to be the most decorated UConn Husky of all time. Like, have you thought about it that all? Look at all the people that have been to that program, that are on the wall there, and it might be Alex Caravan, that is the most decorated Husky of all time, if you could pull this off.
No, it's crazy. I mean, I haven't even thought about that yet. I haven't. Just so much emotion has gone to the decision. But I mean, to do it at a program like UConn with the history that we have and just all the great players like you mentioned, I mean, it's crazy, and we still got a lot of work ahead of us to get to that three-peat. But if we could do that and that could happen, then I mean, that's just a blessing and something I don't even know that would, really just be so true to myself. I couldn't even believe that would ever happen in my career.
Maybe Dan Hurley, who's a self-proclaimed artist, I don't know if you know that, could build a statue of you in front of Gampel. Maybe, listen, he's a painter. Why can't he be a sculptor too?
Why not? He could do all things. If he puts his mind to it, he could do all things for sure.
So, all right, what's next? You're in Chicago now. You've been working out for a while. I assume you're going to probably lay low for a little while and shut it down and try to relax a little bit before you have to go back. You have to go to summer school now, by the way. Did you know that when you decided to come back to college, did you understand that you now have probably about a week before summer school starts?
Summer school already started for us, so I knew that indecision for sure. And I already got a text message from our academic advisor being like, "You got to check on your classes now, since you got to take some classes." So I'm very well aware.
You're heading into your third year, right? Do you have your undergrad degree yet? Are you in grad school?
I'll be able to get my degree this year.
Do well. Was that a part of it at all, Alex? I mean, obviously, that you're close, right? You're close. You came in early. Was that at all a factor? Because so many people now, we don't even think of academics as a factor anymore because of NIL, because everybody's, transferring 3-4 times. over the course of their college careers. Obviously, again, your legacy in stores was important here, a chance to win again at the highest level. Was academics a factor in getting your degree now rather than having to deal with it later on in life?
No, that wasn't a factor at all. I think if I were to go pro this year, I'd still find time to make sure I finish my academics, whether that was this year, next year, or whenever. I think it was more so just all a basketball decision at this point and making sure I do what I believe is best for me to set up for my future.
Well, let's talk about getting prep for your future, right? I think the one theme that we've seen the last 2 years in the UConn program is the guys that have been around taking that next step. It was Jordan, it was Adama, and it was Andre 2 years ago, right? This past season, I think Tristan Newton took as big of a step as anybody. Donovan did as well.
Yeah.
You are the guy that looks like is going to be the guy next season. What's the next step for you as a player to be able to get to the level where you're in the first round, late 20, whatever your goal is to be drafted? What do you have to do as a player to get there this offseason for next year?
Yeah, I'd say movement shooting. For offensively, it's movement shooting, be able to, come off screens, pin downs, and really just whether just shoot it right away or create for others, or just be a little more versatile off the dribble and attacking closeouts too, instead of when I get ran off the line. So I think that defensively, just continue to improve defensively has always been one of my key things that, since I am going back now, just proving that I am, much better defender than people think. And then I think just my body as well, continue to get stronger, continue to get quicker. I really think those three things and just continue to versatile my offensive game, then I think, for sure, I could have a big year in store.
Why is the player development so good? What is it about this culture, the staff, the development staff? Maybe it's just the guys that are in that program. Why has UConn the last 2 years been able to get guys better and better and better?
They are brutally honest with you on and off the court. So that's just the perfect starter right there. And that, they're going to tell you straight up if you need to work harder, if what you need to get better at, and if you're not playing up to the expectations. And I think it really starts there, and you really get going in the summer. And then the coaches, all the coaches, Coach Hurley, the assistants, everybody, they give 110% every day. So you got to give your 110% every day too. And I think just doing that every day, it gets you better no matter what. And of course, the drills that they put us through and the uncomfortable situations they put us through, really, it's like you get better no matter who you are in that program.
Give me how the phone call went. I assume it was this morning to Dan Hurley. Give me his reaction and how that look. See, he doesn't want to go through that. He's done after that question. He's like, I'm not telling you how the conversation went with Coach Hurley. I think he's coming back here. Generally you get those phone calls that knock you off when you're on a video like that, Rob. I don't know. You don't get many phone calls. So
no,
you don't get anybody calling you, knocking you off.
All right. Well, while we wait for it.
Yeah, this is huge. This is a huge listen. This is as big of a pickup or of a return as anybody in the country, in my opinion. I really believe that. I believe Alex Karaman's impact on this program and this team this year is going to be as significant as anybody who's come back this year. Because, again, the great thing about Karaman is, Rob, he's all about the right things. He's all about the intangibles, winning, doing it the right way, culture, buying in. He makes shots. He's gotten better every year. It's honestly been awesome to watch his development and the fact that it's never about him. He's going to be the perfect NBA role player. And I don't want to say role player while he's on here, that's dismissive. And Alex, I don't know if you heard that, but I was saying, I think you're going to be a great NBA player. And I said kind of role player because you buy in and you just get better and you do whatever the team needs. I think it's honestly more of a compliment than anything else. I don't know if you'll take it that way.
No.
Yeah, I just do. I think you're all about the right things, the intangibles, the winning. It's not about you. And I was saying, I think your return is as significant as any player who will come back in the entire country this year because of what you meant to this program. And kind of with the Aiden Mahaney's coming in, the Liam McNeely's coming in, the Terrace Reed's coming in. They got a good group coming back. But I said this before we started this. Like you're not a national title contender. I'm not sure you're a Final Four contender without you coming back to this team.
Man, I believe they would be. That's how much I believe in the coaching staff. I believe they would be. But I understand the importance of me being back, and I know, the only thing on our minds right now is that three-peat. So making sure we can do whatever it takes to get that three-peat. And I'm just more so excited to, hopefully get those new guys to experience that feeling of winning a national championship, but more so just helping out the younger guys too, just leading them in the right direction and really just being a better leader this year. And helping Liam L, helping out Ahmad, Isaiah, the freshman, but then more so we're a younger team. We still got some, sophomores now that, I'm willing to help out too. And just, I know they'll make big jumps for us too. So, it's a great group in general. We have so much talent and, it's just going to be an exciting year.
Let's talk about those sophomores, because I think that Solo, Jalen, and Jaden specifically are three guys that that showed flashes of promise last year, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that you're playing behind basically 5 pros, right? So there's only going to be so many minutes available. But what are we going to see out of them that you've seen in practice that maybe college basketball hasn't quite seen yet?
Just how elite they are at scoring. I mean, Solo especially, the way he could shoot the ball, it's special. I mean, he's he was one of the best shooters on our team this past year, and he was lining us up in practice. I mean, he was the reason why we won against Carolina earlier in the year, and just the performance that he had for us. I really think he could be an elite scorer for us, and he's so athletic too. And then Stewie, I mean, he came up big time for us in the Big East Championship, and without him, we don't win that. So he's made the most progress on our team this past year from the summer to the end of the season, and he really improved. He's a versatile defender. He made some big-time defensive plays for us this year, and it's his versatility. If he gets hot, he could shoot it, but he's such a good attacker too. And I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see him grow his game.
Yeah, I think what's really impressive to me is that when you are touted the way that those guys were as high schoolers coming in as freshmen, and then I think it's fair to say don't play as many minutes as maybe you would have hoped coming in as a freshman at that level. None of them, like in the era of the transfer portal and NIL, like how many other programs would have seen all 3 of those guys disappear, right? Head off to the portal, try to find someplace else more minutes when they're staying there. And like, I think that says a lot about what you guys, and I mean specifically like the players and the coaching staff, have developed over the last 2 and 3 years there.
Yeah, it's the culture the coaching staff has and the culture they have in place. I mean, they pride themselves on player development, and you see it from year to year. And I mean, you take the guys in the past too. Jordan, his freshman year, sophomore year jump, just amazing. Andre, he didn't play as much as he probably would have wanted to his freshman year. And then over time, he blossomed into who he is today. And, it takes time, especially for freshmen in this program, just with how elite we are and just the demands that the coaching staff wants from you. So it's definitely tough to get on the court right away. But once you overcome those hurdles and you really trust what the coaches want you to do developmental-wise, then, it's your team and you get to, showcase your talent on the biggest stage in college basketball.
All right, I'm going to try the question again. Hopefully you don't bounce again.
That's me. I don't know what happened.
What was the conversation like when you called Hurley this morning? I assume it was this morning. Give me his reaction.
He was hyped. He knew that this was ultimately the best decision for me in my future, and that he was just so excited. And, he wants that three-peat so badly. So he was just hyped for the three-peat, and that, he's just, the entire coaching staff, they're just so excited. And that,
Did he start yelling? Did he start yelling and screaming three-peat?
A little bit, yeah. That's him. But, yeah, I mean, he was just ecstatic, and he just couldn't be happier for me.
Have you ever visited the Weirdo Room?
I've seen it. I haven't been in it.
You have. You've seen it.
I've seen it.
How do you describe it? Describe it to us.
It's got a lot of meaningful pieces in there, I'd say. It's got a lot of artifacts from our Final Four runs and all the championship runs hanging in there. It's got some meaningful pieces from people that have spoken to us or spoken to him. So I don't know. I actually liked it. I wouldn't call it too weird. I thought it was a pretty, I thought it was a cool room.
So what were your demands? Like, what you should have done something when you called Hurley back and had like a list of demands to come back. Like, I don't know what they'd be, but like give me the things that Alex Caravan cares about the most that you want to come. Like, where do you go to eat in stores? Where's your spot in stores that if you could get a deal done and never have to pay for a meal, where would it be?
I'd say Eat Joy. It's a poke bowl spot and right in stores. And I don't know, me and Tristan, we'd always go there during our first years at UConn, and we loved it so much. And they got like shrimp tempura, fried chicken there to put on your poke bowls too, and that's what we do there. So I definitely say that's my spot. Or playa bowls there too, and nautical bowls. Both are basically the same thing. They're good.
Goodman, you got any more goofy questions before I can ask some real ones here?
Yeah, I mean, my other one is, and Alex is kind of like this too. Him and Tristan were very chill. Like, I don't know who was more chill out of the two of you. Probably Tristan. I think you showed a little emotion. Like, Tristan, you couldn't get anything out of that dude, could you? Like, it's hard to get him riled up. Like, what gets you riled up? What gets you animated and really emotional other than winning a championship?
Yeah, other than the championship, I think it's those runs that we go on. I think it's really just the runs, those 30-0 runs that we had, the 10-0 runs even, just those runs that you start to see the other team become demoralized. And I think those definitely get me going and just amped up and excited. So I definitely say those.
All right, I got a couple here for you. One, are we going to see more of Alex Caravan, small ball 5? Are we going to get any of that this year? Those are my favorite lineups, man. You guys couldn't really stop anyone, but I don't think anybody could possibly. It was like a bucket every possession.
I don't know about that. Now we got 3 elite centers for us this season, so I don't know how much we'll see.
He doesn't want to be banging down there. Like, come on, don't put Caravan in that spot where he's got to rebound against these 7-footers. It's when he injures his finger or whatever, you know.
I don't mind it. If the coaches want to do it again, I'm down for it because I really enjoyed it. That was definitely some of my favorite, lineups during the season too. But yeah. I really enjoyed it. If they want to, I'm down for it. But I know we got some elite centers this year.
Yeah, Goodman, you're thinking about the defensive side of the ball. I know Alex is sitting there thinking, "Ooh, I'm going to have slow 7-footers guarding me." That's a bucket right there. That's light work.
Hey, what do you know of Mahaney? How much have you watched Aiden Mahaney from St. Mary's? Obviously West Coast. I don't know how much you know about him other than 2 years ago. When I always say, I joke with Rob on this. I joke with Rob and I say, if Alex Ducas's back didn't completely lock up, they would have won the national title.
What, this year?
2 years ago. Remember when Ducas's back locked up against you guys? Remember that?
Yeah.
He looked like me out there when he was hunched over and he couldn't move.
Nah, we would have had our run. And still won. No, Aiden, I mean, yeah, we obviously played them 2 years ago, and he was at the top of the scouting report when we played them. He's a crafty guard. He's an elite scorer, and, his playmaking's underrated too. I think he's a great point guard himself, and he's really going to help us. And when he committed, I texted him just how excited, he's really going to love it here and just how excited I was for him. And just that one text he sent me, I could tell his mentality and his mindset fits perfectly with the UConn culture and what Coach Hurley wants. So I really think he's going to take another level with us here. And I truly do think he's going to be one of the best players in the Big East, if not the country.
How much were you involved with the recruitment of some of these guys, not just the Terrace and Aiden, but also Liam? I think that there was obviously, when you have a guy that has the potential to be an All-American, deciding whether or not to go to the program, there's going to be minutes that get eaten up there. So how were you involved with that? Did they talk to you about your decision at all? And how did that process kind of go?
Yeah, I was with Terrace when he visited, so I was able to talk to him, and I don't think I announced yet that I was testing. And then Liam, I think it was the same thing. I was on the visit, but he knew I was testing, and really, it didn't affect anything. I think, and then Aiden, I texted him, and he knew he wanted me back just to have me around, and so he could learn from me too. But really, I think it didn't affect that much. I tried to stay out of it, and I didn't really talk about it to them. Just knowing, I knew they told me they wanted what's best for me, and that yeah, they really hoped I'd be their teammate, and I couldn't promise them that, but I made sure to sell that UConn pitch to them, and that they'd fit all three of them fit in perfectly with us, and they'd really just become stars in this program. So really, you just try to continue to level up the program, and encourage guys to come to this program to just become a better player and a better person, and even if I was leaving.
All right, so now you're back. So Hurley has allowed us. He said he's allowed us to do a show from the Weirdo Room.
Oh,
Do you want to
really?
join us? Yeah. Will you co-host with us, the three of us and Hurley in the Weirdo Room?
If Coach Hurley lets me, why not?
I mean, why not? Right? Like you should actually. I think part of your demand should have been, every month joining us for a show. I think that should be part of the deal.
I'll circle back with them.
Now, you know what? We love you. We know you. Listen, we love that you're back in college hoops. Selfishly, I know we all do.
Very, very selfishly. Yes, we are very
Other
happy
Big
to be
East,
back.
other Big East fans, other than UConn fans, may not. But honestly, listen, you've been great for college hoops to watch your development, your progression, everything that you're about. The fact that you've won, the fact that again you've kind of waited your turn, and I think your turn is now. I think your turn is now to show what you can do as a go-to guy. And I know I speak for Rob here. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. So enjoy your time in Chicago, my man. Go out there, get a good dinner. You deserve it. And we'll see you in stores or in Southborough soon. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for jumping on, Alex.
Thanks, man.
Congrats, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. There he is, Alex Karaban. Now, the question is, Rob, we've had Kansas at 1.
Wait, hold on. Before we go into this,
Yes.
can we just talk about how well I navigated producing this by myself?
Really
jumping
good.
through different things. It wasn't as good as having Daniel and Trevor involved, but I'd say I'd give myself a solid C+.
Yeah, when he got off his phone in the middle, there were a few boxes all over the place. I don't know, looked like building blocks or something, but for the most part, you did a good job. At the end, you did a very, very nice job. But let's get down to business now of where we would put the UConn Huskies in the preseason rankings, because Karaban was kind of a flip of the coin for a lot of people, whether he would stay or come back. And Kansas to me is 1A, Alabama 1B, and I think you could put UConn in discussion. And I think those three for me are 1A, 1B, 1C, and whatever order you want to put them in, I'm okay with. I might put UConn back at preseason number 1 with Alex Karaban coming back again. I think he means that much to that program.
I'm just trying to think like who else would be in that conversation, right? Probably Gonzaga is somewhere in that conversation.
They're second tier. They're next tier for me.
Yeah, I think Iowa State's somewhere in that conversation. I think North Carolina's somewhere in that conversation. I think Baylor is somewhere in that conversation. Yeah, I said Houston while you were busy interrupting me. I said Houston.
Okay.
No, I think that I want to see what happens at the point guard spot, right? How does Aiden Mahaney make the adjustment coming over from the West Coast, coming over from the WCC, coming over from being like a hometown kid to now playing on the other side of the country? For what it's worth, I'm much less concerned is the wrong word, but I had questions about it. And after talking with some people that know Aiden, that basically kind of said like, yeah, he's got some asshole in him in all of the ways that would work for a UConn kid. I'm a little less concerned about that. I think that he fills the Tristan Newton role well, in the sense that he's probably the guy where you kind of run a bunch of stuff, and then if you don't get anything out of like the first 20 seconds of the offense, he's probably the guy that's going to have the ball in his hands, making a decision late. Karaban back is big, and him taking the next step, I think, is something that is really big as well. The movement screens, he said, as kind of like the basketball nerd and resident UConn guy on the field of 68, everything that he just said there about becoming a better movement shooter, becoming better off of screens, becoming better off the bounce, like that's all the stuff that you kind of want to hear him talk about, because I'm in on the defensive side of the ball. I thought that, that was the knock on him early on in his career. If you go back and look at like I guess it was his redshirt freshman year, especially when they went through that losing streak, what kind of happened was teams started like really picking on him and sending their foreman at him every single time. And then this past season, like, he was like, I think you would probably say Steph Castle was the strength defensively and Donovan Clingan was the strength defensively, but AK certainly was not like a weakness on that end of the floor, to the point where in the Final Four, he got switched over on Mark Sears twice and had a couple blocks on jump shots. Then, so I'm in on him defensively, man. Like, I think that getting him back,
he might be Terrace Reed. Terrace Reed might be a huge key here because, again, he's got to be out there protecting the rim. I'm not sure Samson Johnson, you're going to want to play him more than 15, 18 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. But I think the beauty of their team last year was the difference between Clingan and Samson Johnson. You have that again, but can Terrace Reed be that guy, like for a winning team? He did it for a team that really didn't.
I'm not worried about like I don't think that Michigan's record, like everything about Michigan's record last year with the players that have left, like I throw Doug McDaniel at Kansas State in this conversation, and the kid, Terrence Williams transferred to USC. Like the people that are the players that are leaving and heading to a new place. I just think that everything that happened there between Juwan Howard's heart issues and the stuff with his son, the strength coach, like I just think that it was such a mess and a shit show is the best way to say it, that I'm willing to write off like the record and just kind of look at what these players can do. And I think that Terrace Reed is more like, to me, he reminds me a lot of Adama Sanogo in terms of you're going to throw the ball to him. He's going to do stuff with his back to the basket. He's a little bit of a black hole. They kind of got to teach him and coach him up on how to be able to pass out of double teams. Really good rebounder. More of a power guy than like a length and athleticism guy. And so I think you're going to see a little bit of that dynamic. But yes, it's very different when you go from having Adama Sanogo to Donovan Clingan, and then having Donovan Clingan at the peak of his powers to now you're going to kind of have, that's not the like the 5 spot is not going to be the strength of the UConn lineup anymore this year. I don't think so. It'll be a little bit different. I think that offensively we are going to see a team that is going to be elite once again. They got so many weapons, man.
Yes.
And then
shooters all, enough shooters all over the place. Like, man, this is a team that, may not be like overpowering, but they weren't like, we didn't think they were going to be overpowering this past year. And look at what happened. So again, the formula, Dan Hurley, I think part of the formula now is that guys want to stay in stores. Unless, again, you're Donovan Clingan, you're a top 10 pick. Jordan Hawkins.
It's honestly, I said this a little bit when we were talking to Alex, but like it is mind-blowing to me that they had 3 kids that were 4-star recruits in Jalen Stewart, in Solo Ball, and Jaden Ross. Solo Ball was, I think, a top 40 kid. He wasn't even just like he was close to being a 5-star player. And even Yusuf Sangari, who was like a top 150 kid. Like Solo Ball wasn't getting minutes by the end of the season that weren't garbage time minutes, right? Jalen Stewart wasn't getting minutes at the start of the season and only kind of worked his way into the rotation late in the year. Jaden Ross was kind of on the fringes the entire season. Yusuf Sangari basically just got garbage time minutes, right? All 4 of those guys are coming back. Like in the NIL era, in the transfer portal era, having players be willing to wait their turn is not something that happens. And the last time that we really saw a program excel at this was when Villanova had Jalen Brunson waiting his turn to play behind Ryan Arcidiacono, and Dante DiVincenzo redshirting for a year, and Mikal Bridges willing to be a role player for 2 seasons before his junior year, right? Was Josh Hart sacrificing minutes until his senior season? Like that was the last time for me.
Impressive? You know what's even more impressive? That Dan Hurley is an MFer. And he can coach these kids in this era the way he coaches them. But I've compared him. I think there's some similarities to Izzo and Bill Self and Dan Hurley in that, again, you watch him and he will MF them when he needs to, but he'll joke around with them. He'll put his arm around them after practice. And they understand that, like, he's trying to get them better, and it's worked. They've seen other guys obviously go that route, buy in, and look at what it's done for them.
Yeah, and I mean that is a very good point, because the programs that have coaches that coach very hard, the way that Hurley does, you got to be able to love them up. And like we see that, like the perfect example to me is Frank Martin, right? Who had the reputation for being like the craziest dude and the most intense dude. And if you actually get to know him, he is nothing but a big bald teddy bear, right? Like one of the nicest dudes that you'll meet. I think Bob Huggins, when he was at the peak of his powers, really excelled at that and being able to coach kids really, really hard and love them up really, really well outside of the court. And then Tom is like, I think your comparison with Izzo was probably the best one, because you actually see like Izzo's whole thing is I'm going to coach you hard, but you come back and if you have a strong, like he wants competitors. And I think you see that a little bit with Hurley as well. Right. And the one thing I give him a lot of credit for, which is not the easiest thing to do, is his practices are brutal, right? Like you can't go in there thin skinned. You got to be ready to basically get chewed out if you're if you're in there. Yeah. If you're
going hard, he's gonna come after you.
But that's only in practice, Jeff. That's only in practice. Like if you watch him in games, he's intense. He's yelling at the officials. He's fired up. He's pumping the crowd up. But if you go back, and you can do this, anyone listening and watching can do this, watch his interactions with the players themselves. When he's interacting with the players themselves, it is all positivity. It is nothing but boosting them up. It is nothing but being the biggest cheer. Like if they fuck up something in a game, like he's not over there cussing them out. He's over there like, come on, we got this. You're good. We're going to get it back on this next possession. Right. And I think that ability to be like the cheerleader hype man when the stuff actually matters, and being the guy that is the bad guy and the bully and pushing you to get everything out of you, the best out of you in practice, is like, that is such a difficult line to navigate, right? That's such a difficult needle to thread.
You know what I love, Rob? We have a storyline that is bigger and better than any other storyline. Like this year coming in, it was, can they repeat? Now it's like, can they three-peat, which hasn't been done again since those UCLA teams that you mentioned, Alex. It's crazy. We had Bill Walton pass away yesterday, and today Alex Karaban comes back, and we're talking about a three-peat potentially for the first time since those Bill Walton teams for UCLA in the early 70s and early to mid 70s. Crazy. Great.
I'm looking. So just to be the last time that we had a three-peat was 1971 to 1973. Was those UCLA teams? Two of those teams went undefeated. The 1971 team went 29-1.
Right, and the last team was Walton. That was the game where he put up 44 points and was 21 to 22 from the field against Memphis State to get the three-peat there. Listen, it's not out of the equation that they could do it. It's not. I think they're in the mix now. They're in the mix. Obviously, things still have to go right, but it's hard now to look like last year. When Hurley was talking about how he had the formula to me in the preseason, I was kind of nodding. I'm like, all right, come on, dude. Like the formula, what the hell is the formula? Now I'm like in, and I'm like, all right, you tell me you got the formula. It's worked 2 years in a row after you lost as much as you did after the first one. You've now put together another group that not only has the talent, but fits together. Like that's what they do well now. Give the staff a ton of credit. Not just Dan Hurley, but Luke Murray, Kamani Young, Tom Moore. Like the way they're putting this group and have put the past groups together, they fit. They fit. And like you have to. You can't just – it's what I kind of made fun of Indiana for earlier this year about the talent level. Well, the talent level was there for Indiana. Maybe not as much as UConn, but like it was there. What they didn't do was put a team together that fit, and – they weren't coached nearly as well as UConn. Mike Woodson is not the college coach, not the coach that Dan Hurley is.
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. And the one thing that I would add is that they have been very good at identifying not just the players that fit together, but the personalities that they need to be able to make it work. And you know, we talked about this after the national championship win. I do think that having a guy like a Tristan Newton and Hurley learning to be able to coach people that aren't as outwardly emotive as he is, like being like it's easy to coach dudes that are just like you, right? Like I don't think that they're like Hurley and Cam Spencer, there was never a doubt that that was going to work, right? Because they are both as outwardly emotive as humanly possible. And Tristan Newton was the polar opposite of that. I don't think Alex Karaban is quite at that level, but he's definitely low key, and he is definitely not a Cam Spencer level psycho.
But will he get, I mean, he talked about it, right? I don't think he's ever going to be a guy who's going to get up in people's, faces and start yelling at him. But I think, again, I think he'll be more vocal in huddles. I think he'll be more vocal in practices.
Yeah.
I think
and
he realized
leadership and
that's an evolution.
Yeah, and there's different ways that you can be a leader within a locker room. Like you don't have to be a guy that's in there screaming at them, that's yelling at people, that is drawing up plays. Like part of being a leader is being the guy that sets the tone every single day in practice, that shows up early, that is there, that is ready to go, that is making sure that the teammates are held accountable if they're not there on time or if they're not doing the job the right way. It happens in summer. It happens outside of coaching, coaches' practices. It happens in captains' practices. So there's a level of leadership that does not necessarily need to have the coach involved that I think we will see out of him. And it doesn't have to be like the same way that Andre Jackson did it. It doesn't have to be the same way that Cam Spencer did it, right? It doesn't have to be the same way that Tristan Newton did it. But I do think that it is the last thing I would say is just when it's clear who that leader is, the team kind of takes on the identity of that guy. And I think that Alex will be ready for. I'm excited.
That's a pretty good identity. That's a pretty good identity because that kid is like a silent assassin in a way, right? I mean, he kind of is. He just shows up to work and doesn't say a whole lot, but will rip your heart out. And I think you're right. I think all those guys are going to look to him. And Hurley's more of as a coach, he's got the personality that they don't have to have a fiery, outgoing, vocal dude necessarily. Because sometimes, Izzo's had to take on that role with certain teams at Michigan State when he didn't have Draymond Green or Denzel Valentine or Cleaves. And I think Hurley's had to do that certainly even last year. Who was there? Cam Spencer was vocal on the court in terms of, some of the trash talk. I don't think Cam Spencer was like super vocal as a leader type to his teammates. I think honestly, they were just a collective group who understood each other, and Hurley was kind of the vocal aspect of it. And everybody kind of just followed in line and did what they had to do. And I think this year will be probably more of the same.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. So listen, this has been fun to be able to catch up with AK. It's been not maybe
There's
the greatest
experience for him, by the way. Is there like
AK?
Just AK? I think you got to come up with something like
the problem
you came
is
up with a great wall of Bristol for Klingon. You got all summer here. Come up with something a little better. There's another AK that's already been. There's a few AKs actually. We got Andy Kennedy, Kirilenko.
Hold on, Goodman. While we're here, we have a UConn fan that just walked into the room.
We have a special guest.
Yeah. Do you want to hear the breaking news from today? Guess who's coming back to school next year?
We need his reaction. You got to get him on. Wait,
Alex Karaban. Alex Karaban's coming back to school. Are you fired up?
Get him on.
He's being shy. He said yes, he's fired up. I got the double thumbs up, but he doesn't want to come on the show. So
no cameo.
Listen, here's the problem. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with Alex Karaban is that he already has like 100 different nicknames because it's Alex Karaban. So it's like you got to get on the Alex Karaban wagon. He is Alex Karaback. Like there's just so many. There's so many plays on words.
Until you come up with something really good, we're gonna cut this.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're gonna end it right here. But we did have a couple questions in the chat. The biggest one, it's been asked about 8 different times, is does Indiana have a more talented starting 5 than UConn right now?
You never know. I mean, they actually do. Hey, this year I got to look at the rosters. Listen, Indiana paid a lot of money for their roster, Rob. Did they not? Did they not pay a ton of money?
And And that's the end of this Field of 68 podcast. We will
Might
see
just
you guys
be.
every Tuesday night, 9 p.m., Thursday night, 9 p.m. We're actually going to be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. We're going to be talking about all of these decisions and all of these different players that are coming back to school. There's still a bunch that we got to get to that have not been announced as we are here live recording this. So for Jeff Goodman, for Alex Caravan, for my son Chase, who wants to just stand over here on the side and doesn't want to get on camera, I'm Rob Doster. We will see you guys tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. Go Huskies.